Hello dear viewer, welcome to the Asicon channel. Today we're going to be looking at a commander that admittedly we haven't tested enough, but in theory should be very fun to play. That is Kotis, the Fangbearer. So Cooties over here is kind of cool. For 4 Sultai, it's an indestructible 2/1 zombie warrior. When Kotis deals combat damage to a player, exile top X cards of their deck where X is the amount of damage dealt, and you may cast any number of spells with mana value X or less without paying their mana cost. So ideally you want to make Kotis very big, have trample, or at least get through unblocked, and then just play your opponent's deck, right? Problem is he's very small, and when I say that we admittedly haven't run enough tests, is like the gold fishing, very successful. We can get Kotis to like 8-9 power-ish by turn 4. Like you cast him on maybe turn 3, then pump him up turn 4 to attack, or 8 power trample or flying or something like that. But when we played him, we ran into a bunch of Sephiroth players that like to sacrifice opponent creatures, and since this is mainly a Voltron strat, he hasn't been around long enough to do anything. Also, we ran into the Demir Sephiroth from the starter kit, which gives every creature -2. Kotis does not survive the -2. Kotis can't even survive the -1. He was killed 5 times. So we never got to do anything. He did steal, like, he hit the Sephiroth player for 4. Stole like Dark Confidant. Stole Morbid Opportunist and something else. That was really cool. But then got sacrificed before the turn came back. So, dang. But like, yeah, in theory, this should work. I don't know whether it's the lack of the game plan cards or just bad draws. It's probably just bad draws. But anyway, let's get through the deck profile I have thrown together for this guy. So first off, we got the pump spells. We got to pump him up. We're running some of the bad stuff, but you know, it's still cool. Classic Giant Growth. +3/+3 for single green. No trample though, sadly, but still big stats. This one, Groundswell, it either gets +2/+2, but if you had played the land this turn, it gets +4 instead. Titanic Growth, +4/+4, but for 2 mana instead of 1 green. Water Wings, so this is also a protection spell, and flying, but in addition to the flying and hexproof, it becomes a base power 4/4 until end of turn. So Kotis can get flying, hexproof, and become a 4/4. Bounty of Might, this one's kind of bad because it costs 6, but you can give Kotis +9. I think that's really crazy. If you're hitting someone for anything above 8, you're practically casting every spell you hit. Staggering Size, this one gives you trample. +3/+3 and trample until end of turn. Sylvan Might, +2/+2 and trample until end of turn. It also has flashback. Larger Than Life, the InSync, or was it Backstreet Boys? I think it was Backstreet Boys. +4/+4 and trample until end of turn. Blitzball, brother. It's just not that. Blitzball Shot, +3/+3 and trample until end of turn. The power of Waka's racism against the Albed makes it strong. Curse of the Werefox, so this one's a bit different. A monster roll token, which is an aura that gives +1/+1 and trample. That's kind of a permanent fix. This is also a monster roll token on an adventure, and the creature has trample, sure. So there's the pump. Well, I guess the monster roll token is a bit more permanent as an aura, but you can only have 1 roll token equipped at any given point. Speaking of auras, we got a bunch of those too. So Bestial Bloodline, Bestial Bloodline, +2/+2, no trample though sadly, but you can return from your grave to your hand. Citizen Training, so when it enters, draw a card, +1/+0, but also trample. That's good. One with the Wind, +2/+2 and flying. Root of Mortality, grants Death Touch and draws a card. You can enchant an equipment to give it Death Touch too. That matters. It's mainly here for the draw. Most people, well, the Death Touch also disincentivizes blocking, so there's that. So Prodigious Growth, for a whopping 6, you get +7/+7 in trample. So that's your aura package. Might not be enough though, but still. Equipments. Cloak of the Bat, Flying Haste, equip 2. for 2. Haunted Cloak. Cast for 3, equip for 1, Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. So that's important. Ilvoy Light Jammer from Edge of Eternity. This one is new. Hexproof until end of turn, Flash. +1/+2. Equip 3. Oh, also, when it enters, you attach it for free. So Kotis gets Hexproof until end of turn for 2 mana and a slight stat boost. Sigiled Sword of Valeron. +2/+0 has Vigilance, and it's a knight. And when it attacks, you make another knight with Vigilance. So that's just funsies. This one's probably the most important one. Leyline Axe. When it's in your opening hand, you play it for free before the game begins. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has double strike and trample. So if Kotis has double strike, that means his triggers activate per instance of combat damage. Colossal Dread Mask. Living weapon. So it's 6. You make a germ that becomes a Colossal Dreadmaw because it's a 6/6 with trample. But you can also equip for 5. So this is kind of like a fun spicy card. Mana cost is high, equipment's high, but still. On to the utility enchantments. There aren't a lot, but here's Zephyr Charge. You can give Kotis flying for only 2 mana. A repeatable effect. Glacier Wood Siege, because Sultai, and of course we're choosing Sultai. You may play lands from your graveyard. It's more of a theme card, but still. If you happen to need to play lands from your graveyard, and there are a few reasons to do so, like cards leaving your graveyard, this is a very good, very good card. Onto our utility creature. So this is just a 1/1 death touch because Kotis needs blockers. Mainly you need blockers, but still. This one's a defender, but it's a 4/1. This one has death touch. It's a 1/2 for 2. Unwilling Ingredient for single black 1/1 menace. For 2 black, exile it from your graveyard, draw a card, lose 1 life. Bankkeeper's Familiar. This is a very good utility creature. Has flash. It does cost 4, but you can choose one of 3 effects. You either gain 3 life and surveil 3, destroy target enchantment, or counter a creature spell. Girapur Guide. He takes Kotis on a tour, and that tour leads to your opponent's face. So any small dudes with power 2 or less cannot block Kotis for a turn. Very nice. Farsi Revenant. This is more of like a utility thing because Flying Death Touch Lifelink. If Quartzy Revenant is dead in your graveyard, you can exile it to put those keyword counters onto a creature you control, most likely being Kotis. Broodguard Elite from Edge of Eternities. This one's kind of new. It enters with X counters, and you can cast it for Warp because when it leaves the battlefield, you can move those counters to another creature you control. So most likely being Kotis. Another means of counters moving to Kotis. Host of the Hereafter. It enters with 2 counters, and when it dies or another creature you control dies, if it had counters, put it onto another creature you control. Drake's Fate Maker. This one's really good. When it enters, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Each creature with a 1/1 counter you control has trample, and it has warp for 1 green. So, of course, you warp him, you give it to Kotis, he gets trample for a turn, he leaves, you can cast him again for a later turn for 4, give another counter to Kotis, and he just has trample as long as you have counters on him. Wild Heart Invoker. This one's just silly and spicy, but you know, late game if you have a ton of mana. Target creature for 8 mana gets +5/+5 in trample until end of turn. Sakiko, Mother of Summer. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, add that much green. So if Kotis smacks for a ton, you just get a lot of green mana that you keep for steps and phases until end. Up next is Tried and True card draw. So we have some simple stuff like Radical Idea and Jumpstart. So I mentioned earlier that we have cards that check if cards leave your graveyard. Radical Idea could be one of them. It's a repeatable card draw effect for at least 2 uses. Frantic Search. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Untap up to 3 lands. Decode Transmissions. Draw 2, lose 2 life. If a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell was warped, instead you draw 2 and each opponent loses 2 life. Rakshasa's Bargain. Look at top 4, keep 2, put the other 2 in your graveyard. And here's more as a creature. So the adventures draw a card, lose 1 life. It also has Death Touch, so that's a blocker. Obsessive Stitcher. So this is a loot effect for tapping, draw a card, discard, or sacrifice it for 2 blue-black to reanimate the creature from your graveyard straight to the battlefield. Tempest Heart. Draw 2, discard 2. That's also a creature with trample. If you cast a mana value with spell 5 or more, it gets a counter. Omen of the Seas. It has flash. When it enters, scry 2, then draw a card. For 2 blue, sack it, scry 2. And probably the most important enchantment in the deck, Season of Growth. Whenever a creature enters your battlefield, scry 1. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, which is Kotis, draw a card. I kept mentioning that there are a few cards that check whether cards have left your graveyard, and these are more here because of the Sultai theme, because these cards are also from Arceus Dragonstorm. We got Kishla Skimmer, flying 2/2 for Simic. When a card leaves your graveyard during your turn, draw a card. It activates only once this turn. Karu Goldkeeper, flying 3/3 for 4. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard during your turn, create the treasure token. It can also exile itself from the graveyard. 2 Sultai, exile this card from your graveyard, put 2+1/+1 counters and a flying counter on a target creature you control. Activate only a sorcery. And because he is also the face of the Sultai right now, Eval, Arbiter of Virtue, flying lifelink 6/6 for 5. Spells you cast have Delve, that also bypasses some of the larger mana cost spells. It does have the downside where whenever you cast a spell, you lose a life equal to its mana value. Hopefully the Delve will be enough of a good effect to pay for those, but at the very least he has a lifelink, so he can refund you 6 if he gets to hit for damage. Auroral Procession, it's just a return card from graveyard to your hand. Lie in Wait is a return creature card from graveyard to your hand. Then you shoot someone with the power equivalent, so it's kind of removal as well. Speaking of removal, we have Interaction. Disperse, bounce a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Desculpting Blast, bounce a non-land permanent. If it was attacking, you create a drone token. Nature's Way, it's a fight spell, but it gives keywords until end of turn. So Vigilance, Trample, and then it deals damage equal to its power to a target creature you don't control. Make the ball Vigilant and Trample and then smack someone. Embrace Oblivion, as an additional cost, sack an artifact or creature, then you destroy a creature or a spacecraft. And straight up just murder for 3. And then of course Naturalize for the artifact or enchantment hate. On to the mana ramp. So most of these are proxies, but we try to make them at least pretty. So we got a Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Dimir Signet, Simic Signet, and Golgari Signet. And Golgari Locket. This could obviously be like something better, like Commander Sphere maybe, or Chromatic Lantern would be a much better choice just to mana fix you. But if you're okay with proxies, at least, you know, make them pretty. And last but not least, we have our mana base. So let's get to the non-basics first. Command Bridge from outer space. It enters tap, and you sacrifice it unless you tap an untapped permanent you control. So if you have an aura or an equipment or an enchantment that, you know, doesn't need to tap to do stuff, you can tap those instead of a land you control to pay for the sacrifice cost of this. So that's cool. Evo Wilds, because we're running 3 colors, makes it easier. Myriad Landscape, it helps mana fixing still, even though it's a bit slow. Access Tunnel, target creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. So if you're running pump spells, if
Coyotes
isn't big yet with like more permanent effects, you can grant him unblockable, declare as an attacker, and then do the instant speed pump stuff, like the giant growth to make
Coyotes
a 5/5 or something. This could obviously be Rogue's Passage. It's just that we don't have any more Rogue's Passages extras. I mean, we could probably proxy one, but you know, for a later time. Non-basic tap lands, Dimir Guildgate, Submerged Boneyard, Dismal Backwater, Simic Guildgate, Thornwood Falls, Golgari Guildgate. As for basic lands, we are running 8 islands, 8 swamps, I think 11 forests? Yes, 11 forests. There you go. There you go. That is Kotis, the Fangbearer. This deck is super cheap. If we go to our Moxfield deck list, it goes for a whopping $12.99. That's super duper cheap. And I at least like to think it does enough for its price, you know? Like a very playable commander deck, I'd say. Like it does struggle a bit if you don't draw the pump stuff. And it does have a little trouble blocking, I'd say, but you know, we'll do more tests. And if you have any other ideas, share them in the comments below, of course. But in the meantime, thank you for checking out the deck tech for Kotis, the Fangbearer. He seems like a very fun, albeit a bit more, basic with its game plan of a commander. But the fun part is seeing what your opponent's cards do and use them yourself. So, again, if you enjoyed the video, if this made you get any ideas for your own Kotis deck build, please share in the comments below how you would go about your own deck build for Kotis. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Peace.